Despite losing to Andy Ruiz, promoter Eddie Hearn says AJ is still the number one heavyweight. What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you smash the like button. Also, subscribe to the channel for the latest and greatest in boxing. If you want to become part of the gang notification gang, please hit the bell icon. Let's jump into it. Eddie Hearn did an interview with IFL TV, link in the description. Had interesting things to say, so here I am. Eddie Hearn says, do I feel that Anthony Joshua is the best heavyweight in the world? Yes, I do. AJ's just coming off of a loss to Andy Ruiz, so right now, based on performances, I'd say the best is between Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. I felt like Tyson Fury beat Wilder, so arguably Tyson Fury is the best heavyweight in the world. I believe Joshua is the best, but on paper it's hard to say that until he beats Andy Ruiz. Until he gets that position back, he lost his belts, he lost his titles, right? He goes on to say, I certainly feel like it's the best four heavyweights in the world are Joshua, Dillian Whyte, Tyson Fury, and Deontay Wilder. But now you got to think about Ruiz, and you got to think about Alexander Usyk, and you got to think about Joseph Parker. Philip Ergovich is a monster at the moment. Joshua is just coming off of a loss. Until he beats Ruiz, it's very difficult to say he's the best heavyweight in the world, right? And to be honest, it sounds like Eddie Hearn is deluded here and delusional, not accepting the fact that his cash cow has lost. You know, the reality is his cash cow, Anthony Joshua, lost. Not just that he lost, it was a nasty loss, an embarrassing loss, a 4 knockdown loss, a loss where his best round was also his worst round. In the third round, he caught Andy Ruiz, you know, looked like a typical Anthony Joshua knockout show. And then Andy Ruiz got back up and changed the tide. So it sounds like Eddie Hearn's having a difficult time like adjusting to the fact of how blunderous this whole situation has been, this whole premeditated American takeover, yet you haven't taken over America. You know, Tyson Fury just fought in America against Wilder, held a good account of himself. You know, he just fought Tom Schwartz, a guy we figured he would beat, but you know, he got a knockout. You know, Wilder's stock is growing and his profile is growing. Andy Ruiz's profile is growing. And meanwhile, Joshua is on the B side until he can avenge that. Now, I know they're pushing for an immediate rematch, which is cool, but for Eddie Hearn to suggest that AJ is still the number one heavyweight sounds ridiculous, right? And then conveniently, he's putting Usyk and Joseph Parker, who, you know, Joseph Parker, who already lost to Anthony Joshua, lost to Joseph Parker. You know, he's putting them in the mix. Philip Ergovich, he looks cool, but he ain't fought nobody of substance yet. So, you know, this sounds like just promoter talk. That's what I'm just gonna keep calling it. You know, I've been calling it that for a while, but it sounds like promoter talk. It don't sound serious. It doesn't sound like, you know, everyday boxing hardcore fans would say some of the stuff that some of these promoters are saying. Like, really, Joseph Parker, he's a good fighter, but he has 2 losses. So how could he be, you know, the best in the world at this moment? You know, Andy Ruiz said he wants that revenge too. You know, and they have Joseph Parker. If he is the best, Eddie Hearn has him fighting Alex Lepai, who Klitschko knocked out years ago. You know what I'm saying? So these guys, a lot of these new guys are just now doing what Klitschko did years ago. So, you know, back to Anthony Joshua, it's an uphill battle. November, December is slated for the rematch. Andy Ruiz just may have his number. I really think that the style is what gave Joshua all the problems. Yes, you can factor in, I think Joshua did under-prepare or underestimate Andy Ruiz, but the skill, the talent, the style, the shorter shots, the hand speed, the voluminous punching, you know, it's just the different elements of the fight. You know, styles make fights. It's just, that's how boxing oftentimes works. But I don't think anyone outside of Eddie Hearn is really considering Joshua the number 1 seed with that type of loss. In fact, it's actually, this is sad for Eddie Hearn to even say this on camera, because it's exactly the opposite. You know, if we're being frank and we're being real, a lot of people think Joshua may never recover. A lot of people like, you know, Roy Jones, I just talked to him today. He said Joshua shouldn't do an immediate rematch. And he said, I knew Andy Ruiz was underrated. The video's up. You know, I already posted the video. I'm out here in Vegas. You know, people like Bob Arum, Amir Khan, David Price, myself, and a slew of other people have, you know, pleaded that Joshua should really consider before going into the rematch. And, you know, let Eddie Hearn tell it, Joshua is still number one. And it's funny because Eddie Hearn's commentary is oftentimes, I just feel like he has to do a lot of backtracking. First, he said Tyson Fury wasn't going to make the Wilder fight. No way. He said, I had talked to Tyson Fury 2-3 months ago, and no way will he fight a champion and power puncher like Wilder. This is what he said before the fight. Then they got in the ring they were in Ireland. They got in the ring after the Francisco Piñata fight for Tyson Fury. And Eddie Hearn was still doing these same interviews conveniently with UK media. That's where he seems to get off and do the most like outlandish interviews. He was saying, I have to see it to believe it. Tyson Fury is going to pull out. You know, the fight hasn't been announced. What's taking so long? And tried to create this stampede, if you will, invoke this fear that the fight may not happen. And then when it was announced, he said, I got to see it to believe. You know, it's just constantly changing. First, the fight's not going to happen. Then we see them in the ring and they both agree that the fight's going to happen. And then he says, I'm still not convinced. You know, Fury will find a way out. Then they announce the fight. He's like, what's taking so long for the announcement? Then they announce the fight. And then he says, Fury's going to pull out and not make it to the ring. You know, fast forward to after the fight, he's saying, you could argue Tyson Fury's number one because I thought he beat Deontay Wilder. So now all of a sudden you're again trying to shit on Deontay Wilder. You kept Joshua from Deontay Wilder. You won't give Wilder his credit. You won't give Andy Ruiz, another Mexican-American credit. You know, how is Joshua number one when Andy Ruiz just beat him? You know, Joshua is not number one until he gets that back. And then he still won't even be number one as long as Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury are around. You get what I'm saying? And I think the walls are closing in on Team Joshua and Eddie Hearn. A lot of I don't know. I don't know if Joshua will be the same fighter. I don't know if the whole celebration and what Joshua was built at, I don't know if that's coming back, to be honest. Because, yeah, even if he gets past Andy Ruiz, a lot was shown that night. You get what I'm saying? And I really believe that Team Joshua, Eddie Hearn especially, they paraded around on this material hype about like, he got the most belts, and look at silly Wilder, the Dosser. He only has one belt, and my fighter has all the belts other than the WBC. And then now, fast forward to the future, we see that doesn't mean anything, you know, because now it looks like Wilder has that extra gear, you know, shown in the Luis Ortiz and Tyson Fury fight to push through it. But Joshua didn't really show that versus Andy Ruiz, a 5-week replacement, smaller guy, short arms, you know, who he wasn't even expected to do bad against. And, you know, I just don't know if Joshua's reputation will or can be the same. You know, he's going to have to do, it's going to be more than just beating Andy Ruiz, you know, because people like Joe Joyce have come out and said, you got to question his chin. Oscar De La Hoya, these are actual fighters, some heavyweight, some not. Oscar De La Hoya said, I always knew that Joshua's chin wasn't, you know, it was suspect. He said something to that effect. And he said, I'm glad Andy Ruiz did it, you know. So now people are starting to come out in the woodwork, and in boxing, that could be devastating because what you were built up, like not the muscles, the frame, the Olympic gold, people are seeing through that okay, this guy's still beatable despite that. So, you know, in terms of like cool points and reputation, we don't know if Joshua can get that back, because once the jury's out and people start having these, he got a suspect chin, or he doesn't have heart, you know, he quit, then it's hard to regain that, and it's going to take more than one fight. Precisely why I don't think Anthony Joshua should even do an immediate rematch. Build him back slowly. But Eddie Hearn, rematch room, they know how disastrous this has been, and I feel like they're operating from a position of desperation. Like, man, I gotta, you know, double or nothing. This is all my money. that's been invested into this one fighter. So he got to get them belts back. If not, then I'm really fucked. So he's willing to gun it and chance it. You know, it's like going on a high-speed pursuit. Yeah, there's a chance you could shake the cops, but, you know, there's also a chance that they can lay down tire spikes and fuck up your tires and shoot your tires out and get the canines on you too. So it's just a huge gamble for Anthony Joshua. You know, it's really like a high-speed pursuit. Yeah, maybe you can get away with it, but you've already been on this high-speed pursuit. It's getting, you know, Channel 3 news, live copter footage, and they got a bunch of units on you, and, you know, everybody's joining forces to stop. You're going to run out of gas at some point, you know, so things don't really work in your favor when it comes to stuff like that. So we'll see how Joshua does and how tough his mental is, but he's definitely not number one. I think this is just Eddie Hearn's desperate damage control plot. I just think more or less this is Eddie Hearn's desperate damage control plot to keep Joshua, his stock high in a time of need, and, you know, keep his name ringing bells and maybe install some fear in Andy Ruiz that Joshua's coming back and that he's going to come back focused and dedicated and come back correct. But it's really all or nothing for Rematch Room, Eddie Hearn and Team Joshua. This is really a must-win scenario, I feel, for them in this fight. Joshua is definitely not the number one. I think I would like to see Eddie Hearn give Andy Ruiz more credit. You know, he's talking about Wilder and Fury, and he thinks Fury beat Wilder, but, you know, Ruiz beat your fighter, and you're still saying that you feel he's number one. What is it based on? It was not a good performance. Let me know what you guys think. Those are my thoughts. Drop it in the comment section. If you're new, consider subscribing. We working. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxingego, the future of boxing.